Freight Efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roth and Friends.
In episode 37, we have Selda Gunsel, President, Shell Global Solutions, joining us, where she shares her thoughts on the power of technology to change the world and improve the quality of life. We also talk about the need to work on multiple solutions in transportation to increase the efficiency of today's products while developing products for the future. She also talks about the need for innovation, collaboration, and partnership to solve and tackle the climate challenge, and Shell's short and long-term plans for the trucking industry. Today we have joining us Selda Gunsel. She's president of Shell Global Solutions, and I'm sure she's going to tell us about her role and how that fits in the very large organization of Shell. So hello, Selda. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
I think this is an incredibly timely conversation, as Shell is involved in a multitude of challenges and opportunities around this energy transition. And but before we dig right into that, I always ask my guests how we met and became friends. Do you recall when we met first?
Yes, of course, Mike. I remember how and when we first met. It was in the fall of 2016, where we were both invited to speak at a conference organized by Shell in Los Angeles. The conference was focusing on efficiency, durability, and total cost of ownership in the transport industry. And I'm happy to say that since then, we've had a number of opportunities to speak together at forums focusing on climate change, sustainability, and of course, the transport industry. So it's been a pleasure to work with you and NACFE over the years, and I truly appreciate our personal and professional relationship.
Oh, so kind. Yeah, I remember that well too, and I think that was actually a road show around the country where NACFE sent people and Shell had folks at multiple cities around the country, and maybe Canada too. I don't recall, but it was that did kick off I think we knew we could help each other, NACFE and Shell, and that did kick off into a number of things, some of what we'll get into here. So tell us about yourself, and how I think your entire career has been, in energy or with Shell, but how did you get here, and what keeps you?
Okay. Yes, thank you, Mike. Well, I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey. So growing up in Istanbul, a city based on two continents with a rich history and cultural diversity, was a great setting for preparing me for global leadership roles that I have enjoyed in Shell and in the energy industry. And, I think at school, my favorite subject was mathematics, and I liked problem solving. So I wanted to pursue a degree in college that utilized, mathematics and science to solve problems and industrial challenges. And engineering seemed to be a really good fit with my interests. So I studied chemical engineering and then pursued my graduate studies here in the US, where I was involved in research programs funded by the Department of Energy and the energy industry. So that's how I got into energy, and I'm really passionate about science and technology, and I believe in the power of technology to change the world and improve quality of life. And I find it personally meaningful to work in technology in the energy sector, as energy is essential to sustain and improve quality of life. And there are a lot of problems to be solved in energy, related to decarbonization and energy transition.
Yeah. It makes me think a little bit too about women in engineering and how engineering degrees, even the sciences degrees, can help propel someone into the upper levels of various different industries. You want to share anything about being a woman in both engineering and now at a pretty high management role at a company? I mean, any advice or thoughts there? I mean, that's a little tough question, I'm sure, but any thoughts there?
Sure, I'm happy to share. I mean, I think, as a female, I never felt different, but, I really had to work very hard to establish credibility in the industry. I think when I first started working, I remember going to energy related conferences, and there would be, I don't know, 2,000 people in attendance, and there would be 3 women. So it felt a little uncomfortable, but I have to tell you, there was also a positive to it. Everyone remembered me. And but yeah, I think that I think we are getting better in terms of encouraging girls to study science and engineering. And I think it all starts in elementary school or even middle school. I participate in a program that NASA coordinates in the Houston area schools, where you mentor elementary school kids to encourage them to go into STEM related studies. And I find it really, really meaningful. So I think the industry is in a better place, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I attended the Women in Trucking conference. Actually, I think the 3rd time I attended it last month in Dallas, and that was that put the shoe on the other foot. I mean, it was probably 1 in 10 men, maybe less, mostly women. So it was, again, I've been in 35 years in trucking. Almost every show I go to, it's been predominantly men. I think we're making a big difference though, and it's changing quite a lot. Which is not unlike the next question I have for you. I mean, we're in a huge energy transformation, and I totally believe that this transition is underway. But you would have probably claimed to be an oil and gas industry person 10 or 20 years ago, right? And so oil and gas is now kind of turned to energy. How does that, do I have that right? I mean, kind of how the people look at Shell and other companies like that, and what's it feel like inside the company as you move from an oil and gas company to a very different type of company when we look forward in 20 years or so?
You're absolutely right, Mike. We are becoming an energy company and really transforming from being an oil and gas company to a global energy company. And as a global energy company, our purpose in Shell is to power progress together by providing more and cleaner energy solutions. And as you know, providing more energy while reducing CO2 emissions is a huge challenge. However, we are committed to addressing this challenge, and our target is to become a net zero emissions energy business by 2050, in step with society and our customers. We've also set short and medium-term targets to make sure that we are reducing emissions in line with the Paris goals and meeting the expectation of our customers and the society. So it is really an interesting time to be in the energy industry because there is not a single solution to achieve our goals, and we need to pursue multiple pathways, such as improving energy efficiency of our own operations and our customers' operations, providing more low carbon energy products, and capturing and storing remaining emissions through carbon capture and nature-based offsets. So, you're absolutely right. We are working in many different areas of energy and not just oil and gas.
For those of us, and I would consider NACFE and Shell, I mean, we're long time, NACFE 12 years, Shell, 100 or so or more, I don't know. But, we've been at this a while, and, NACFE, we've been helping diesel companies reduce their fuel consumption through the work we do. Now we're working on zero emission. You are going to continue to improve, lubricants for diesel engines, and all sorts of things. So it becomes a lot. I mean, for those companies, for a battery company or somebody focused only on electric vehicles, or somebody, only focused on some of these future technologies, they've got sort of a singular focus. Many of us, we're having to support, and I'm not calling this a bad thing, it's just the reality, support customers today, also work on the future, figure out which of the technologies and solutions, what's their path to going away, and what's the speed of these various technologies coming forward. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, does that resonate with you as well? I mean, it's figuring out not only what's scaling up, but what's scaling down is my thought.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. As I said, I think we have to work on, multiple solutions at the same time, as you mentioned, continuing to improve the efficiency of the products and services we are offering today, while developing alternative technologies for the future. And you mentioned, electrification and battery manufacturers. As a technology person, what I'm finding really interesting is that, we always in the past collaborated, and we continue to collaborate with OEMs, mainly, truck and automotive OEMs. But now, in addition to our traditional partners, basically engine manufacturers, we are also working very closely with battery manufacturers. These, I consider them non-traditional partners of Shell, but I think the industry is really changing. And I mean, this challenge of, climate change and energy transition, needs innovation, collaboration, and a partnership on a scale that's rarely seen. So, in order to develop and implement solutions, we really need to make sure that energy suppliers, energy users, OEMs, government agencies, policymakers collaborate effectively, because there is not one company, one sector, or one government that can figure this out on their own.
Yeah, that resonates a lot with me. There's time, because we also have the infrastructure to think about, whether it's charging, hydrogen, distribution and delivery. Like you just mentioned, regulations. We've got the sunsetting of technology. There's a lot going on. It's a big system, and there's a lot of money to be made and lost in bad decisions. So there's a bunch of biases that are gonna come in, and so I do think organizations that, like in my last question, it almost sounded like I was complaining about our roles. On the other hand, we do, because we're involved in so many things. The conversation that I've had with Cummins is very similar, where they supply engines to nearly every market everywhere in the world. So they have kind of a first row seat, which I would say NACFE and Shell and others have that benefit as well, where we can sort of see it because we're involved in so many places that that can be a burden, but also a real advantage to help do things right and be effective.
Yes, I fully agree with your views, Mike.
Yeah. So you've been. I'm going to ask you a kind of an odd question. You've been pretty, familiar with what NACFE's done. We worked on Shell Starship together. Shell's been quite involved in our reports on confidence reports on things like low viscosity lubrication and now electrification, hydrogen. Kind of from your chair, how's NACFE been doing? Have we been helping the industry? I mean, what are some of the keys, maybe advice you have for us as we do our work?
So, I mean, first of all, I must say that we are really grateful for our relationship with NACFE. And since, our goals are very much aligned in helping road transport customers reduce their emissions and finding more sustainable alternatives. As we all know, the trucking industry is filled with incredible people who overwhelmingly prefer to collaborate to solve problems and make our industry better. And you've really been a catalyst and an integrator to bring together the trucking community. So we are really, pleased to be in your ecosystem working with you. And you've been extremely supportive. You just mentioned our Starship project. You've been involved in our Starship initiative and demonstrating, how currently available technologies can reduce CO2 emissions and increase fuel economy. I know that we relied on you to help during the development and testing of Starship 2.0, where we saw some huge gains in freight ton efficiency, fuel economy, and related CO2 emissions. I have to say, we've also enjoyed being a title sponsor of NACFI's Run on Less campaigns, where you are analyzing and learning from fleets to determine best-in-class fuel economy and testing the limits of tomorrow's technology. We didn't, run on less electric this year. It was exciting to watch fleets and OEM partners share the benefits and challenges of deploying electric trucks. I believe that it's opportunities and collaboration like these that will help us scale up technologies and tools we have today to build for the future. So you're doing a great job. Please keep it going.
Yeah, yeah, and thanks for your support. And I do think everybody wants to understand how these technologies affect them and their business, and that's what NACFE tries to do. We keep listen out in the real world, what's going on by the manufacturers and the fleets and so forth. So with respect to let's just talk about like North American Class 8 tractors for a bit. Selda, what are you most excited about moving forward? I mean, there's some that say we can electrify a lot of those trucks. The batteries will have the the weight and performance and cost to do it, or maybe we'll need fuel cells, or maybe there's there's a lot of talk about e-fuels, biofuels, even carbon-free fuels that can be burnt in some of these engines. I mean, what are some of your thoughts around all that? What excites you the most? And how do you think that'll play out over the years for North American heavy trucks?
Yes, well, as a technologist, in the short term, I'm really excited about our ability to push the boundaries of existing technologies to maximize the efficiency of today's fleets. As we have seen in our Starship project, the impact of CO2 on the environment is cumulative. So the sooner we can reduce CO2, the better for our planet. And I'm excited to say that we are already working on our next generation Starship project, where we are exploring low carbon fuels, in combination with energy efficient lubricants and powertrain technologies. I'm also excited about developing a specialized portfolio of products, Shell e-fluids, which are dedicated to improving the performance and efficiency of electric trucks. And again, as Shell, we are involved in all the different technology pathways, improving energy efficiency of the available technologies today, looking into, electrification in light passenger and medium duty trucks. And then, of course, moving on to, hydrogen fuel cells. And again, these electric trucks and hydrogen fuel cells, I mean, they will happen. It's a matter of time. We just have to have the right infrastructure, right policies with the incentives and the supply capabilities to bring them to life. But, again, as I said, as a technologist, there are so many problems to be solved. So I'm excited about, being involved in all of them. And, I love the fact that, I come to work every day and I have the opportunity to be part of, developing these new technologies that will enable us to move to a, low carbon future.
It is incredibly exciting times. And I think what drives me is to help not only the fleets choose the right technologies for their businesses, but help the manufacturers and even the regulators and others to put the proverbial round peg in a round hole. Not try to force hydrogen into a place where batteries would be better, or batteries in a place where diesel, or either in a diesel and advanced diesels, or even e-fuels down the road can be a solution. So right technology for the right duty cycle. A question that's on my mind, particularly as you think about being an innovator and a technologist, is that sometimes I worry that we have so much on our plate as an industry. Can we handle it? Electrification, connectivity, automation, we haven't even talked about. I mean, there's a lot here, and occasionally I see kind of deer in the headlights, not only in my own self, but in others. How do we find our way through all this? I mean, what would be your advice to the industry on how we manage lots of solutions. Again, you mentioned lots of problems, but there's lots of solutions, and how do we manage through them all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very positive. I believe that our industry can handle it all. This is a really resilient industry, and we learned how much commercial road transport is the absolute lifeblood of the economy, especially during the pandemic. So we have to keep this industry moving while simultaneously figuring out how to reduce emissions at scale. And you may be familiar with the study we did with Deloitte, where we looked into barriers for decarbonization. Yep. And the major findings were around complexity of infrastructure replacement, lack of regulatory incentives, and lack of market and customer demand. So, based on all these insights and what we hear from our customers, we decided to focus on a few key areas. First, as I mentioned earlier, we are very active in increasing the hydrogen production and supply capability. So we are going to make sure that hydrogen is available for heavy duty and long haul medium duty trucks. And as you may be aware, we are doing a pilot in California with Toyota and Canward, where we are developing and installing large capacity refueling stations between the Port of Los Angeles and a major warehouse district in California. So this pilot will, give us a lot of learnings around how we can bring hydrogen technology to this market. Secondly, we talked about electrification. So we also want to expand our electric charging infrastructure and services for both light duty and short route, medium duty trucks through our Shell Recharge offer. I mean, we are in a really good position through our retail stations. We around the world, we have 45,000 retail stations, and now we are expanding these retail stations to also have EV charging capabilities. So we want to use our existing infrastructure to be able to provide, electrification or charging services for this evolving sector. In addition, it's also important for us to be able to provide low carbon fuels, including, LNG, bio-LNG, renewables, biofuels. And again, we are actually producing our first waste-derived CNG and a fueling site at our Carson facility in California. California definitely is a very good testing ground for us to test these new emerging technologies. And of course, lastly, we really need to make sure that we are influencing the policies that are developing in this space, because we do need the policy support to make sure that we have the right fuel regulations, right infrastructure, investment incentives. And so again, multiple solutions, different timelines, and I think it's really important to work in parallel to develop these options while continuing to improve our existing technologies.
Very good. And I think you're well on your way to being that energy company that I'm sure, in prior strategy discussions at Shell, it's like, let's figure out how to do this, and you're well on your way. And it's so exciting. I also, heard in your comments, kind of hold on loosely to what we think we know and learn as we go. There's these pilots, there's these, we don't know where all this is going to mature and what different technologies are going to happen. I mean, we're in an innovation and a commercialization time period on many of these, and some of what we think today will change and we'll adapt, but having that confidence. And I totally agree. The trucking industry is incredibly collaborative and ready to work on the right things at the right time. And I've got faith that we'll figure it all out as well. So, hey, it's been a great conversation, Selda. Always wonderful to spend some time with you and really all the Shell folks. Thanks for joining me, and best wishes as we move forward.
Thank you, Mike. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for having me.
Freight Efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roth and Friends.